If you've ever stood up from a chair, taken a couple of steps, and suddenly felt lightheaded or wobbly, like the room was dimming or your legs weren't quite under you, I want you to know something important right now. That feeling is almost never about clumsiness. And it's rarely about your balance being broken. For millions of people over 60, that moment of dizziness is actually a timing error, a mismatch between when you changed your posture and when your circulatory system caught up to supply your brain. The good news is that once you understand this timing mistake, you can often reduce or even eliminate those dizzy spells with something I call the 20-second stand-up reset. It's simple, it's safe, and you can start using it tonight. But here's what most people don't realize, and this is what we're going to unpack together. There's a hidden trigger window during the day when your body is especially vulnerable to this timing mismatch, and knowing when that window opens for you personally can be a genuine game changer. I'm also going to give you 2 specific questions to ask your doctor about your medications. Questions that can help you figure out if your prescription timing might be contributing to the problem. Stay with me through this whole video because everything builds, and by the end, you'll have a clear 7-day plan to test these ideas for yourself. Before we go further, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Drop your age and where you're watching from, whether it's your living room, your kitchen, or maybe you're watching on a tablet in bed. And if you're a caregiver watching this for a parent or loved one, type caregiver in the comments so I can see how many of you are here helping someone you love stay safe and independent. Let me paint a picture that probably feels familiar. You've been sitting on the couch watching something for an hour or so, and then the phone rings, or you remember you left something in the kitchen. So you push yourself up, take a couple of quick steps toward the hallway, and suddenly there's this wave, this strange feeling like the world isn't quite solid under your feet. Maybe your vision goes a little gray at the edges. Maybe you have to reach out and steady yourself on the wall. And then, just as quickly, it passes. You shake it off, tell yourself to be more careful, and go about your day. Or picture this one. You've been in the car for a long drive. You finally pull into the driveway. And when you step out and walk toward the house, your legs feel strangely heavy. Your head feels light, and you pause for a second before continuing. Or maybe it happens after a warm shower, or right after you get out of bed in the morning and head straight for the bathroom. These moments are so common that many people assume they're just part of getting older, something you have to live with. But here's what I want you to understand, and this is crucial. In most cases, these episodes are not random, and they're not inevitable. They happen because of a specific timing mismatch between what your body is doing and what your blood pressure needs to do. And the beautiful thing is that once you understand the mechanism, you can work with your body instead of against it. I'll show you exactly how in a moment, but I want you to really sit with this idea first. Dizziness on standing is often a signal, not a sentence. It's telling you something about timing, not about decline. So let's talk about what's actually happening inside your body during those dizzy moments. And I promise to keep this simple and visual because you don't need a medical degree to understand it. When you're sitting or lying down, your blood is distributed fairly evenly throughout your body, and your heart doesn't have to work very hard to push blood up to your brain. But the instant you stand, gravity pulls a significant amount of blood, we're talking about a pint or more, down into the large veins of your legs and abdomen. Your brain, which is very demanding and needs a constant supply of oxygen-rich blood, suddenly has less to work with. In a younger person, or in someone whose cardiovascular reflexes are working optimally, the nervous system responds almost instantly. Blood vessels in the legs and core tighten up, the heart rate increases slightly, and blood pressure is maintained so well that you never notice anything happened. But here's what changes with age, and this is where the timing mistake comes in. Those reflexes can slow down. They might take 5 seconds, 10 seconds, or even 20 seconds to fully kick in. And if you stand up and immediately start walking, turning, or reaching before those reflexes have done their job, your brain briefly doesn't get enough blood, and you feel it. That's the dizziness. That's the wobbly feeling. That's the room going dim. It's not weakness, it's not poor balance, And it's not something wrong with your inner ear in most cases. It's your circulation lagging behind your movement. And what makes this even more important to understand is that certain things can make that lag worse. Medications, especially blood pressure medications, can relax your blood vessels and slow the reflex. Dehydration reduces the total volume of blood available. Prolonged sitting lets blood pool. Heat causes blood vessels to dilate. A large meal diverts blood to your digestive system. Illness, fatigue, and even distraction can all contribute. This is why I mentioned the hidden trigger window earlier, and I'm going to come back to that in just a moment, because knowing your personal trigger window is one of the most practical things you can learn from this video. Now let me teach you the 20-second stand-up reset, and I want you to actually do this with me right now if you're seated. Make sure you're near something stable, a counter, the arm of a sturdy chair, or a wall you can touch if needed. Here's how it works. Before you stand, while you're still sitting, I want you to pump your ankles up and down about 5 or 6 times, pushing your toes toward the floor and then pulling them back up toward your shins. This gentle movement squeezes the veins in your calves and pushes blood back up toward your heart, like a little pump getting things moving before you change position. You can also press your feet into the floor and tighten your thigh muscles briefly while still seated. You're not doing a workout, you're just waking up the circulation. Now, when you're ready to stand, push up slowly, not in a rush, and when you reach the standing position, pause. Don't take that first step yet. Stand tall, take one slow breath, and let your eyes settle on a fixed point across the room. This pause, which can feel like an eternity when you're used to popping up and going, gives your cardiovascular system those precious seconds to adjust. Count to yourself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just 5 seconds of stillness. And then, take your first step slowly and deliberately, keeping your head level and your gaze forward. That's the reset. The whole thing takes about 20 seconds from the moment you start those ankle pumps to when you take your first real step. Try it with me right now if you can. Do those ankle pumps. Stand slowly. Pause for 5 seconds. Take a slow first step. Notice how it feels. Many people tell me that just this simple change, this brief pause after standing, reduces their dizzy episodes dramatically. And the reason it works is because you're finally giving your body the time it needs to do what it's trying to do anyway. You're working with the timing instead of against it. Now, let's talk about that hidden trigger window I mentioned at the beginning. And this is something that can really shift how you think about your day. The trigger window isn't one specific time on the clock. It's any moment when your body's blood pressure regulation is already under strain, making a dizzy episode much more likely if you stand and move quickly. For many people, the first trigger window is right after waking up. You've been lying flat for hours. Your blood pressure is naturally lower. And if you swing your legs out of bed and walk straight to the bathroom without pausing, you're catching your system at its least prepared. Another trigger window opens after prolonged sitting, like after watching a movie, finishing a long meal at the table, or riding in a car. The longer you've been still, the more blood has pooled. A third window, and this one catches a lot of people off guard, is right after a large meal. Digestion requires blood flow, and your body redirects a surprising amount of circulation to your stomach and intestines after you eat. Standing quickly after a big lunch or dinner can leave your brain temporarily short-supplied. And then there's heat. A hot shower, a warm bath, sitting in a sunny room, or even exercising and getting warm can all dilate your blood vessels, making it harder for your system to compensate when you stand. What I want you to do, and here's a little assignment, is to start noticing when your dizzy moments happen. Think back over the last few weeks. Was it after getting out of bed? After a meal? After sitting for a long time? After heat exposure? Most people find that their episodes cluster in 1 or 2 of these windows. And once you know your pattern, you can be extra deliberate about using the 20-second reset during those specific moments. You don't have to be vigilant all day, just during your personal trigger windows. This is what I mean when I say you can work with your body. You're learning its rhythms and respecting them. I want to pause here and talk about some of the most common mistakes I see people make. Because even with good intentions, these little habits can set you up for a dizzy spell. One of the biggest mistakes is standing and immediately walking fast. Your intention might be to answer the phone before it stops ringing, or to get to the kitchen quickly because something's boiling over. But that rush robs your circulatory system of the adjustment time it needs. The correction is simple. Stand, pause, then walk at a measured pace, even if it means letting the phone go to voicemail. Another common mistake is holding your breath as you push up from a chair or bed. You might not even realize you're doing it, but holding your breath increases pressure in your chest and can actually interfere with blood returning to your heart, making the blood pressure drop worse. The correction is to exhale gently as you rise, keeping your breathing smooth. A third mistake is looking down at your feet and rushing that first turn, especially when you're heading around a corner or toward a doorway. Looking down shifts your balance point forward and can amplify that lightheaded feeling. Keep your eyes up, focused on a point at eye level or above, and make turns slowly. Here's a sneaky one. Getting up when you're distracted or startled, like when the doorbell rings or someone calls your name from another room. That startle response often triggers a quick, unplanned stand, and you're already in motion before your brain catches up to what your body needs. The correction is to pause for a breath before reacting, even if it feels unnatural. Remind yourself that 3 seconds of delay won't matter, but a fall could change everything. Another mistake is standing after a long period of sitting without doing any kind of reset first. No ankle pumps, no leg tension, just straight up and walking. That pooled blood in your legs hasn't been mobilized at all, so the drop is more pronounced. And finally, a big one that I see often, standing right after a large meal or a hot shower without any awareness that your body is already working harder than usual to maintain blood pressure. During those moments, you need an extra long pause, maybe 10 seconds instead of 5, because your system is starting from a disadvantaged position. When you catch yourself in any of these patterns, don't be hard on yourself. Just gently correct and move on. These habits built up over decades, and it takes a little practice to replace them with safer ones. But the effort is worth it, because each small change stacks, and together they can make standing feel secure again. Now, let's talk about monitoring. And I want to be careful here because I'm not going to give you specific numbers that tell you what's normal or abnormal. That's your doctor's job. And every person's situation is different, depending on their medications, their health conditions, and their history. But I will say this. If your dizziness is happening regularly, especially if it's new or getting worse, it can be very useful to bring some information to your next appointment. Some clinicians recommend that patients check their blood pressure in the seated position, then stand and check again after 1 to 2 minutes to see if there's a significant drop. This is something you can discuss with your doctor, and if they think it's appropriate for your situation, they can tell you what kind of drop would be concerning for you specifically. The value of doing this at home is that you're capturing what happens in real life, not just in the office where conditions are different. If you do track readings, write them down in a simple log, along with notes about what you were doing, what time it was, and whether you felt symptoms. Bring that log to your appointment. Doctors love data, and it helps them make better recommendations. Which brings me to those 2 questions I promised you earlier, the ones to ask your doctor about medication timing. The first question is, could the timing of my blood pressure medication or the dose be contributing to my dizziness when I stand? Some medications peak in the bloodstream at certain times of day, and if that peak happens to coincide with when you're most active or most likely to stand quickly, it could be making the problem worse. Your doctor might have ideas about adjusting when you take your medication, though I want to be very clear. Never change your medication timing or dose on your own. That's a conversation for your prescriber. The second question is, should I be monitoring my seated and standing blood pressure at home? And if so, what kind of difference should concern me? This opens the door for your clinician to give you personalized guidance and can make your home observations much more useful. These 2 questions don't require a long appointment. but they can lead to changes that make a real difference in your daily comfort and safety. Let me ask you something right now, and I hope you'll share your answer in the comments because it helps me make better videos for this community. When does your dizziness happen most? Is it right after getting out of bed in the morning? Is it after a meal? Is it after you've been sitting for a long time, like after a car ride or a movie? Or is it after a hot shower or bath? Scroll down and let me know, because I'm genuinely curious about the patterns you've noticed. Your answers also help other viewers feel less alone when they see that their experience is shared by so many people. If you found this information helpful so far, and especially if you think it could help another senior or caregiver, I'd be grateful if you'd tap the like button and subscribe. That's how this channel grows and reaches more people who need this information. And I genuinely believe that knowledge like this saves, falls, and protects independence. Okay, let's keep going, because I want to give you a clear picture of what your week can look like if you decide to take action on everything we've discussed. Here's my suggestion for the next 7 days, and you can adapt this to fit your life. On the first day, your only job is to practice the 20-second stand-up reset 3 or 4 times in a controlled way. Do it near your kitchen counter or next to a sturdy chair, somewhere you can touch something stable if needed. Pump your ankles, stand slowly, pause for 5 seconds, then take a slow first step. Notice how it feels. You might find that even on day 1, those first steps feel slightly steadier, and that feedback will motivate you to keep going. On days 2 and 3, start paying attention to when your dizzy moments usually happen. Keep a mental note, or jot it down, about what you were doing right before any wobbly moments. Were you getting up from bed? Had you just eaten? Had you been sitting for a long time? Were you in a warm environment? This is how you identify your personal trigger windows. By day 4, you'll probably have a sense of which moments are highest risk for you, and you can start applying the reset extra carefully during those specific times. If mornings are your vulnerable window, build the ankle pumps and pause into your wake-up routine. If post-meal is your window, use the reset after lunch and dinner. On days 5 and 6, practice the reset in different situations, not just when you're thinking about it, but when you're slightly distracted or in a hurry. See if you can catch yourself before you stand too quickly. This builds the habit so that eventually, the reset becomes automatic. And on day 7, reflect on the week. Did your first steps feel steadier? Did you have fewer dizzy moments? Did you discover a trigger window you didn't know about? If things improved, that's wonderful feedback that these strategies work for your body. If things didn't improve, or if the dizziness is new, worsening, or causing you real concern, that's valuable information too, and it means it's time to bring this to your clinician for a deeper evaluation. Here's what I hope you take away from our time together. That moment of lightheadedness when you stand is almost always a timing problem, not a balance problem, and it's usually modifiable. Your body needs a few seconds to redirect blood flow and stabilize pressure after you change position. And by giving it those seconds with the 20-second stand-up reset, you're working with your physiology instead of fighting it. By identifying your hidden trigger windows, whether it's mornings, post-meals, after long sitting, or after heat exposure, you can be extra protective during the moments that matter most. And by asking your doctor those 2 questions about medication timing and home monitoring, you open the door to personalized guidance that can make everything work better. I want you to try the reset for 1 week and come back to the comments to tell me how it went. Did your first steps feel steadier? Did you notice a particular trigger window? Did you discover something surprising about your own patterns? Your feedback not only helps you track your progress, but helps others in this community feel encouraged to try these strategies themselves. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I'm truly honored that you trusted me with these 20 or so minutes, and I hope this information makes your daily movements feel safer and more confident.